This will be a day long remembered. Now I am the master.
Welcome to another episode of Legends and Theories. Since later this week, Batman is going to be challenging Spider-Man in the box office, I think that I want to release the video that I've been wanting to do for a while, which is Arkham Batman versus Insomniac Spider-Man. With this video, I'm going to be looking into the basic stats of these characters. I will be looking at what they have done, and I'll be giving some basic ratings. These ratings do not mean they are guaranteed to win. It's just to see overall how they rate them as a hero. And with Batman, I'll be looking at the events of Arkham Origins, Arkham Asylum, Arkham City, and Arkham Knight. I'm not going to really look at Arkham Origins Blackgate. I've played that once and don't remember too much about it. I don't remember some of the major story parts, but I think just looking at those four Arkham games is enough. And with Spider-Man, I will be looking at the events of the first game since the second one has not come out yet. And I'll also look at some of the background stuff that is hinted at with these characters. For some instances, you'll see what I mean about that later in the video. So let's get into it, starting with the Arkham Batman. And I'm not going to go into these characters' origin stories. Everyone knows the origins of Batman and Spider-Man, and I don't need to be telling you that. But looking at Batman, we'll take a look at some of the basic info I pulled off of his character profile. And then I'm going to go through a few different feats, including training, strength, durability, experience, gadgets, intelligence, stealth, other tools they use. This isn't going to necessarily go under gadgets and will be used in a special mode of this. So I will be able to explain that, but let's just go straight into it. Starting with some of the basic stats for Batman. Bruce Wayne is 6'2". He weighs 210 pounds, and he is in his late 30s. We don't know exactly how old it is, although you could guess around 36 to 38. And I will talk more about that and how I got that number with the experience section. But still, could be seen as a bad thing for him, since he is a lot older than Peter Parker is. But I still don't think that really goes into it, since he's able to keep up with many villains throughout the series. So let's move on to the first part of it, the training. And Bruce Wayne had roughly a decade of training with the best martial artists, detectives, and strategists, and this helped him a lot. And now he still keeps up regular training through what we know in canon in simulations, which we could play through as challenge maps in the game. And Batman is very impressive. We could see through stuff like initiation how hard his training is, and with the fact that I never went and fully completed initiation. I played part of it, and fail at it, but I just didn't have the time to finish it, so I just haven't had a chance to do it. But still, initiation is a good example of just how hard Batman's training is and how hard it is to keep it up. And when we play through different maps in the Arkham augmented reality or just challenge maps, depending on what game it is, we have some very complex scenarios where he practices himself in stealth and in combat. And with his training, I'm giving him the score of 11 out of 10, which I only allow at the maximum of once per character, since his training is just so exceptionally good. I think this is the place where you have to put an 11 out of 10. And then going to strength, although he is strong, he's definitely the strongest character in the universe. He has to go up against some pretty powerful people. He has to fight Bane, and even Bane on the Titan formula in Arkham Asylum. But far more impressive was Bane on TN1 in Arkham Origins. I think that Bruce Wayne has some really good strength feats and is able to keep up with people out of his weight class that are a lot more powerful than him. Although he isn't, perfectly able to do it and has to be smart about fighting those people. So I'm giving him about a 7 out of 10 for strength. And now moving on to durability. I think Batman is pretty durable. He isn't, someone that could take loads of gunfire, but he could take a good amount of it before dying, and that really depends on the difficulty you're playing. But I'll just be looking at this through normal difficulty, and yeah, he could take a good amount of gunfire before he's taken out. But also, he's able to take multiple hits from anyone on Titan, and he was able to survive blows from Bane on the TN1 formula when was not at full strength. But when the TN1 formula is at full strength, a single hit would just instantly kill him, and it takes about 10 minutes for that to happen. He's also able to survive a roof collapsing on him, although part of that is plot armor. I just have to give him a 6 out of 10 for durability. Moving on to experience, Bruce takes an easy 10 points on this. He served 12 years as Batman, which I got easily because there's 2 years with Batman in Arkham Origins, and another 10 years passed between Origins and Night. So we got 12 years. Pretty simple math. But still, Batman is extremely experienced. He's been dealing with the criminal element of Gotham for over a decade, and that definitely shows how resilient he is and how good he is of a fighter and everything, because he didn't die within the decade of being Batman, although he was potentially killed at the end of Arkham Knight. It's still because an expansion exploded, and that could have been part of his plan. He may have faked his death. We cannot prove that, but it is a possibility. And still, that has nothing to do with it because his mansion got blown up when he got home, and it seems like that was part of his plan. So still, I just definitely have to give him an experience of 10, especially since he actually had a plan for what would happen if his identity got outed. Going on to gadgets, we have a lot of gadgets. We're going to be looking at only the ones in Arkham Knight, at least for this part. I think I might have a fun bonus round where I could use anything, but looking at only what he has access to in Arkham Knight, he can use the Batarang, the Multi-Batarang, the Batclaw, Explosive Gel, and just to go through what these do, the Batarang is just a basic projectile that I could use to do a bunch of different things. The Multi-Batarang is just 3 of those, so we can throw multiple at the same time. The Batclaw can be used to grapple, but also be used to pull people down. and to move away obstacles, and move him on small rafts. The explosive gel could be used to blow up weak walls. The explosive gel does have 3 blast, and yeah, I think that it's still a really useful gadget. He also has access to smoke pellets, which you can use to escape from a situation. He has the line launcher, which he could use to fly into enemies, but also used to move around quicker in tight spaces and get over some obstacles that he can't go over normally. The remote hacking device is capable of hacking into most computer systems, and if it's not, he just has to go and get something connected to that system so he can get into it. The disruptor has 4 shots in it if it is fully upgraded and can be used to disable many different pieces of equipment. The voice synthesizer can be used to create a fake voice and lure people out. The freeze blast can temporarily freeze people in place. The remote electric charge goes and shoots a blast of electricity that could be used to temporarily stun enemies. His cape gives him both the ability to glide through the air and to stun enemies so he can take them down. Finally, his detective vision can be used to go and scout out enemies, look through a room, and be able to plan out his tactics better. I totally give him a 9 out of 10 for gadgets, although he does have a lot. I don't think he gives a completely perfect score on it, since, mainly because of game mechanics, some of them do have limited uses, and sometimes can, make mistakes with them. But still, it's a really good gadget system. Going to his intelligence, he has very high intelligence. With the fact he is considered the world's greatest detective, definitely helps towards it. And although we haven't had this confirmed about this version of Bruce Wayne, in other realities, he has been confirmed as the second smartest person on Earth, right behind Lex Luthor. And I definitely think that it is an interesting thing to look at. And for his intelligence, that's an easy 10. Going to his skills in stealth, he is a master of stealth. As I said before, he is trained with the best. He can quickly escape any person who spots him, and is able to use his skills of stealth to take down very powerful opponents. That's another easy 10. Now looking at other tools. These are some tools that he has that they are, a little unfair in a fight. And with the normal fight, I'm going to be keeping these out of it, at least for now. There's gonna be another round where he could use them, and with it we have the Batmobile, which is a massive tank with armor-piercing rounds, a riot gun that shoots rubber bullets, and EMP missiles, hacking capability, a strong power wrench. It's compatible with a Batwing. Electricity can go through the power winch, and yeah, it's really powerful. He also has the ability of a Fear multi-takedown, which is used to take down henchmen in a matter of seconds. And they are armed, so it is a very powerful move. And for these other tools, I give him a 9. One of the things I did forget to mention is some of the special skills he does have. Not really sure if I'm going to count these in the normal fight, but he has the ability to do instant takedowns. He also has the ability to disarm and destroy any weapons, and he also is able to have some pretty powerful moves with like the Bat Swarm takedown. Again, I'm not really sure if I'm going to be counting those, so that's why I put them with the other tools. And looking at his total score, I give him a 9, which is the main of all the numbers I have so far. And that's a pretty good score for him as a hero. Let's go take a look at just some other stuff. He has a lot of allies, including Oracle, who is his hacker, Alfred Pennyworth, who is the person in communication with him, but also is his adopted father, James Gordon, who was the former commissioner of police and is now the mayor of Gotham, and that is established in like the final scene of Arkham Knight, if you paid attention. There's also Nightwing and Robin, who are his sidekicks and worked with him very closely. Another good ally is Aaron Cash, who was a former Arkham guard and potentially the new commissioner of the GCPD, although we do know he does work there now after the closure of Arkham Asylum in Arkham City. One side on a little more of a questionable area as allies, but still could be considered, kind of depending on the endings you choose and everything that happened, is Jason Todd, aka the Red Hood, the former Arkham Knight. There is also Michael Lane, aka Azrael, and he is your ally if you choose the good ending. And Nissa Al Ghul was your ally if you choose the Kill Raish ending, which lets her live because she dies in the other ending. And that's a pretty solid amount of allies for him to have. And just wanted to mention them in this. And then here are a few fights I think we could use for reference against Spider-Man. There's Deathstroke in Arkham Origins, was a very skilled fighter that was on the same level as him. Bane on TN1, which is a good example of him fighting someone who extremely outclasses him in strength. Mr. Freeze from Arkham City, which shows how he was able to take down someone much more intelligent and being able to counter his abilities, which I think Spider-Man could do. Although Mr. Freeze probably isn't as smart as Batman, he's definitely very powerful and a great threat. And then there is Killer Croc, which I think is a pretty interesting one because it shows how Batman is able to be careful and know how to use someone's strengths and weaknesses against them. Yeah, I think that everything with Batman is very impressive. I do rate him pretty highly, and I want to know if you agree with this. If you think he has a 9 or deserves it. But now it's time to move on to Spider-Man. And starting with him, we'll go over some of the basic info about him and then go into all those categories I went into with Batman. So starting off with it, he is 5'10", weighs 167 pounds, has the age of 24 in Spider-Man Miles Morales. But if we're just going based off of the events of Marvel Spider-Man, then he's 23. Doesn't matter too much with a year of difference. So I'm just gonna say he's 24. And with training, that's the first thing. I think that his training is nothing compared to Batman. Although he does manage to stay fit and train pretty well after being Spider-Man, he did not really train well at all before becoming Spider-Man because he didn't think he could ever become a superhero until he was bit by the radioactive spider. So I have to give him a score of 6 for training. Moving on to the next category, we have his strength, and it's an easy 10. He has pretty high levels of super strength and could take on anyone that dares to challenge him. He's been able to go in straight up fights with the Rhino. He's been able to fight Doc Ock, and he's fought other people like the Sandman. All characters that are extremely powerful and definitely pose a great threat. And that's why I'm giving him a 10, I think, as I already said. He's also pretty durable. He's able to take a good amount of gunfire, a lot more than Batman can. He's also survived hits from the Rhino and Doc Ock's tentacles, and he's able to also fight on with multiple broken bones after he was beaten half to death by the Sinister Six, which is why I give him a durability score of 8. Experience, I think he has to be tied with Batman on this, and this and then another one are the only ones. Three of these are tied with Batman, and this is one of the ones that definitely think needs to be tied because he served as Spider-Man for 8 years up to the events of the first game, and then a 9th year between the first game and Miles Morales. So, with a total of 9 years of experience as Spider-Man, that's definitely a great score for him to have. His gadgets are all pretty interesting, although they almost all come from his web shooters. We have the basic web shooter, which you could use to stick people up, the impact web, which you can use to push people towards a wall or another surface, the spider drone, which you can use to distract enemies, the electric web, which could temporarily electrocute people, works pretty similar to the electric charge. The web bomb can web up a bunch of people in an area. He also has the trip mine, which can send out a web to catch people, a concussive blast, which could push people away, and a suspensive matrix, which will pull people into the air. He also has the ability of wall climbing and spider sense, and wall climbing is pretty obvious. He can also swing from his webs, and spider sense gives him a warning about attacks that will come in. And with that, I have to give him a score of 9. Next, with intelligence, I think he's definitely up there with Batman. I also gave him a 10 because he seems to have a pretty high level intelligence. He was able to help build the Doc Ock arms, make countermeasures to them as a brilliant scientist, although most of it is taken away when he is far too busy being Spider-Man to be able to work. But that's because of him trying to save the world. So I think his intelligence is still really high, and I have to keep that at a 10. With stealth, I have to give him a 5. Here's the thing, in the Spider-Man game, if you get spotted in the stealth section, unless you go and get far away from that area, it takes forever for you to be able to go and hide, and it's just better to go straight into combat from that point. Although if he is able to stay in stealth, he is pretty good. If he gets spotted, it's basically done. Oh, that it's gameplay mechanic and could be fixed in future games, just based off what we've seen so far of his stealth skills. They are pretty bad. And then with his other tools, he has the suit power battle focus, which is connected to his main suit. I'm not gonna let him get any other suit powers because some of those could get pretty OP. And I think it's also just too much to look for because it depends on who you play as his character. I usually use the iron arms, but I just want to go with the basic one, and this superpower gives him faster focus energy, which could be used to heal himself or be used for takedowns. There's also a bunch of different takedowns he could do and different moves he can use. Although I'm not aware of all of them because I know more about the Arkham ones versus the Spider-Man ones. And finally, let's take a look at the total score for him. With everything, he has an 8.4. And although he is slightly below Batman, it's not by much, and is nearly close enough to round up to a 9, which would put him on equal levels with Batman. Although you would have to round him down, which is why I didn't round him down, because I wanted to show just how close he was to Batman. And then looking at allies, he has a lot less allies. He really only has Mary Jane Watson, who is both his girlfriend and reporter for the Daily Bugle. Miles Morales, which is another Spider-Man who works with him, has a lot more powers than Peter. And then, clearly in the questionable if they are still an ally, is Yuri Watanabe, who is the former police captain who has lost her job. And then looking at some of the fights that are similar to Batman, I would think that the only boss fight in the game is really Taskmaster, since he's a very skilled fighter, and he definitely poses as a physical threat to Spider-Man. He's able to take him down, but it definitely is a challenge. Another one is Mysterio. He has actually not fought Mysterio in the games, but we do know he has existed and been defeated by Peter in the past. So I definitely am giving Mysterio a mention here. And then for a round where he will probably go against the Arkham Batmobile if I decide to put it in, he will take down some of the Sable trucks, but those things are pretty weak compared to the Arkham Batmobile. And now, moving on to everything else, I think that we have good examples here of both powers, abilities, and what we know about them. There's definitely more knowledge of me with the Arkham series since I've played them a lot longer. But still, I think that these heroes are pretty evenly matched. In fact, that's the reason why I'm having these different rounds of the fight. And that's why I've been mentioning rounds of the thing, because I will be doing at least 2 and potentially 3 rounds. The first round is just going to be a straight up fight. It will be them just, fighting as they would normally would. They don't get access to their more exclusive powers like takedowns, the ability to heal, and Batman won't get the Batmobile. But when we go for something like round 3, which will be combat also, but they will get access to all of that. Batman will have the Batmobile, and potentially will have access to all gadgets from the other games that he doesn't have in this one, so stuff like the shock gloves. Although I'm not sure if I will do that. I might, but I am not 100% sure for that one. But then the final round, which is round 2, is going to be a fight in stealth, because I think that's more realistically how Batman would fight Spider-Man. It would be similar to him fighting someone like Mr. Freeze or Bane on TN1 because you would know that there's a really good chance that this guy could beat him physically in a fight. So he would go with stealth. I'm not going to explain everything in that and my reasoning to what will happen in the fight because that's what part 2 is for. So we'll see that when it comes out. And also, I don't know if you're potentially interested in the series that would have me look at how these heroes would do in each other's games. That could be a fun video to do, but I just want to know what you would think of that. Let me know in the comments. I'll see you all in the next episode of Legends and Theories. Thank you for watching this episode of Legends and Theories. Please subscribe, like the video, share the video, leave a comment, check out the video on screen, and may the Force be with you.